Srimad Bhagavatam today, so it's me. And first we'll be reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam Mahima Stotra by Sri Sanatana Goswami from Sri Krishna Lila Stava. It's Sarva Shavi Piyusa, Sarva Vedaika Sarvara, Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaya, Sarva Loketa Jaipada, Sarva Bhagavata Prana, Srimad Bhagavata Prabhu, Kali Dvanto Dita Dija, Shri Krishna Parivartita, Paramananda Padmaya, Prema Vakshashayate, Sarvanda Sarva Sevaya, Shri Krishna Namaste. Madhita Bandhu Matsangi, Madguru Mad Mahadana, Manustaraka Madhvagya, Manananda Namostate, Asadu Sadhu Tadayan, Adini Chochatarata, Anamun Chakadachin Mam, Pranari Tatayospura. So translation, O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, single fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truth, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Every syllable pours down to the throat of Brahma. You can always be served by everyone, no Sri Krishna himself. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with true love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 You read or so we are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 14, and Pregnancy of Deity in the Evening. Text 36. I'll just read 5 minutes and then read the rest. Okay. Text 36, translation. Let him be pleased with us, since he is my brother-in-law, the husband of my sister Sati. He is also the worshipable Lord of all women. He is the personality of all opulences and can show mercy towards women who are excused even by the uncivilized hunters. Purport. Shiva is the husband of Sati, one of the sisters of Diti. Diti invoked the pleasure of her sister Sati so that Sati would request her husband to excuse her. Besides that, Lord Shiva is the worshipable Lord of all women. He is naturally very kind towards women, on whom uncivilized hunters also show their mercy. Since Lord Shiva is himself associated with women, he knows very well their defective nature, and he might not take very seriously Diti's unavoidable offense, which occurred due to her faulty nature. Every virgin girl is supposed to be a devotee of Lord Shiva. Diti remembered her childhood worship of Lord Shiva and begged his mercy. Text 37. Maitreya said, the great sage Kashyapa thus addressed his wife, who was trembling because of fear that her husband was offended. She understood that he had been dissuaded from his daily duties of offering evening prayers, yet she desired the welfare of her children in the world. Text 38. Translation. The learned Kashyapa said, because of your minds being polluted, because of defilement of the particular time, because of your negligence of my directions, and because of your being apathetic to the demigods, everything was inauspicious. Purport. The conditions for having good progeny in society that the husband should be disciplined in religious and regulated principles, and the wife should be faithful to the husband. In Bhagavad Gita 7:11, it is said that sexual intercourse according to religious principle is a representation of Krishna consciousness. Before engaging in sexual intercourse, both the husband and wife must consider their mental condition, the particular time, the husband's direction, the obedience to the demigods. According to the Vedic society, there is a suitable auspicious time for sex life, which is called the time for Garbhadana. Diti neglected all the principles of spiritual instruction, and therefore, although she was very anxious for auspicious children, she was informed that her children would not be worthy to be the sons of a Brahmana. There is clear indication herein that a Brahmana's son is not always a Brahmana. Personalities like Ravana and Hiranyakashipu were actually born of Brahmana, but they were not accepted as Brahmana because their fathers did not follow the regulated principle for their birth. Such children are called demons or rakshasas. There were only one or two rakshas in the previous ages due to negligence of the disciplinary method, but during the age of Kali, there's no discipline in sex life. How then can one expect good children? Certainly, unwanted children cannot be the source of happiness in society. But through the Krishna consciousness movement, they can be raised to the human standard by chanting the holy name of God. That is the unique contribution of Lord Chaitanya to human society. So we do have to learn the light. The light, please. The light, should be a bit more or my point. Would you want to read? No. The light. I mean, yeah. Okay. So I'll go back to the okay. So we'll pause on Pravina now.
Hare Krishna. O household one, you will have three contemptuous sons, born of your conjoined womb. Unlucky woman, they will cause constant lamentation to all his words. The contemptuous sons are born of the conjoined womb of their mother. In Bhagavad Gita 1.40, it said that when there is no deliberate negligence of the regulative principle of religious life, the woman as a class become polluted, and as a result there are unwanted children. This is especially true for boys. If mother is not good, there cannot be a good son. The learned Kashyapa could foresee the character of these sons who could be born of the conjoined womb of Diti. The womb was conjoined because of the mother being too sexually inclined and thus transgressing all the laws and injunction of the scriptures. The society where such women are predominant, one should not expect good children. Translation. Text 40 translation. They will kill poor, faultless living entities, torture women, and encourage the great soul. Purport. Demonic activities are predominant when innocent, faultless living entities are killed. Women are tortured, and the great souls engaged in the Krishna conscious are enraged. In the demonic society, the innocent animals are killed to satisfy the tongue, and the women are tortured by unnecessary sexual indulgence. Where there are women and meat, there must be liquor and sex indulgence. When these are prominent in the society, by God's grace, one can expect a change in the social order by the Lord himself or by his bona fide representative. Text 41. Translation. At that time, the Lord of Universe, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is well-wisher of all entities, who will be descend and kill them, and just as Indra smashes the mountain with his thunderbolts, purport, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 4.8, the Lord descended as an incarnation or to deliver the devotee and kill the miscreants. The Lord of the universe and of everything would appear to kill the sons of Diti because of their offending the devotees of the Lord. There are many agents of the Lord such as Indra, Chandra, Varuna, Goddess Durga and Kali, who can chastise any formidable miscreants in the world. The example of mountains being smashed by the thunderbolt is very appropriate. The mountain is considered the most strongly built body within the universe, yet it can be easily smashed by the arrangement of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Personality of Godhead does not need to descend out order to kill the strongly built body. He comes down just the sake of his devotee. Everyone is subject to the miseries offered by the material nature, but because of the activities of miscreants such as killing innocent people and animals or torturing women are harmful to everyone and are therefore source of pain for the devotees. The Lord comes down and he descends only to give the grip to relief to his ardent devotees. The killing of miscreant by the Lord is also very mercy to the Lord towards the miscreant. Although apparently the Lord takes the side of the devotee, since the Lord is absolute, there is no difference between his activities of killing the miscreant and favoring the devotee. Text 42, translation. Diti said, "It is very good that my sons will be magnanimously killed by the arms of the personality of the Godhead with his Sudarshana weapon. O my husband, may they never be killed by the Brat or the Brahma devotee." When Diti heard from her husband that the great souls would be angered by activities of her son, she was very anxious, and she thought that her son might be killed by the wrath of Brahmas. The Lord does not appear to the Brahmas become angry to the someone, because the breath of Brahmas is sufficient in him itself. He certainly appears, however, when his devotee simply becomes sorry. A devotee of the Lord never prays to the Lord. A devotee of the Lord never prays to the Lord to appear for the sake of the troubles the miscreants cause for him. He never bothers him by asking for a protection. Rather, the Lord is anxious to give protection to the devotee. Diti knew well that killing her sons by the Lord would also be his mercy. Therefore, she says that the will and the arms of the Lord are magnanimous, and if someone is killed by the will of the Lord and thus fortunate enough to see arms of the Lord, that is sufficient for his liberation. Such a good fortune is not achieved by the great sages. Okay. Translation, text 43. A person who contained by the Brahmas is always fearful to other entities is not favored either by those who are already in the hell or those in the spaces in which he is born. The purport, a practical example of contained species of the life is dog. Dogs are contained that they never show any sympathy to their contemporaries. Text 45, translation. The learned Kashyapa said, "Because of your lamentations and penitence and proper deliberation, and also because of your unflinching faith in the Supreme Personality of the Godhead and your adoration for Lord Shiva and me, one of this son of yours, Hiranyakashipu, will be approved devotee of the Lord. One of the sons of, that is Prahlada, of your son Hiranyakashipu, will be the approved devotee of the Lord, and his fame will be broadcast equally with that personality of the Godhead." Translation. In order to follow his footsteps, saintly persons will try to emulate his character by practicing freedom from animosity, and just as purifying the process of rectify gold of the inferior quality. Purport. Yoga practice of the process of purifying one's existential identity is based mainly on the self-control. Without self-control, one cannot practice freedom from animosity. And the most conditional state, every living being is envious of other living being. But when in the liberated state, there is an absence of animosity. Prahlad Maharaj was tortured by his father in so many ways. Yet after the death of his father, he prayed for his father's liberation by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He did not ask any benediction that he might have asked, but he prayed that his atheistic father might be liberated. He never caused any of the persons who engaged in torturing him at the instigations of his father. Text 47 translation. Everyone will be pleased with him because of the personality of Godhead. The supreme control of the universe is always satisfied with the devotee who does not wish anything beyond him. Purport. The supreme personality of Godhead is situated everywhere as the super soul, and he can dictate to anyone, everyone as he likes. The will be the grandson of Diti, who was predicted to be a great devotee, would be liked by everyone, even by enemies of his father, because he would have no other vision besides the supreme personality of Godhead. The pure devotee of the Lord sees the presence of the worshipper Lord everywhere. Yeah. The Lord reprocates in such a way that all living entities in the whom the Lord is dwelling is a super soul, also like a pure devotee, because Lord is present in their hearts and can dictate them to be friendly to his devotee. There are many instances in the history wherein even the most practical animal become friendly to the devotee of the Lord. Wow, very good. Text 48. The topmost devotee of the Lord will have expanded intelligence and expanded influence, and will be the greatest of the greatest soul. Due to mature devotional service, he will certainly be situated in the transcendental ecstasy, and he will enter in the spiritual sky after quitting this material world. Purport. There are 3 stages of transcendental development in devotional service, which are technically called Satyabhava, Anubhava, and Mahabhava. The continual perfect love of Godhead is called as a Satyabhava. Sthayi Bhava. When it is performed in a particular type of transcendental relationship is called as Anubhava, and the stages of Mahabhava is visible among the personal pleasure potential energies of the Lord. It is understood that the grandson of Diti, named Prahlad Maharaj, would be constantly meditate on the Lord and reiterate his activity. Because of he would constantly remain in meditation, he would always easily transfer himself in the spiritual world after quitting his material body. Such a meditation is still more conveniently performed by chanting and hearing the holy name of the Lord, specially recommended in the age of Kali. Text 49. Should I continue?
Up to you.
Who's gonna read next?
Toby's coming at 7, so.
Yeah, it's 5 minutes more now. Okay. Text 49. He will be virtuously qualified preserver of the good quality. He will be jolly and happy in other happiness, distress in others' distress, will have no enemies. He will be destroyer of the lamentation of all the universe, like pleasant moon after the summer sun. Purport. The Prahlad Maharaja The exemplary devotee of the Lord had all the good qualities of humanly possible. Although he was the emperor of the world, he was not profligate. Beginning from his childhood, he was the desire of good qualities. Without enumerating those qualities, it is said that summarily that he was endowed with good qualities. That is a sign of pure devotee. The most important characteristic of the pure devotee is that he is not lampata, licentious, and the other quality he is always eager to mitigate the miseries of the suffering of humanity. The most obnoxious misery of the living entity is that forgetfulness of the Krishna. The pure devotee therefore always tries to evoke everyone's Krishna tries to evoke everyone's into Krishna consciousness. This is the penka for all miseries. Text 50. The grandson will be able to see. Your grandson will able to see inside and outside the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those whose wife was beautiful goddess of fortune. The Lord can assume the form of desired. Lord can assume the form desired by the devotee, and his face is always beautifully decorated with the earrings. It is predicted herewith that the grandson of Diti, the Prahlad Maharaj, would not only see the personality of Godhead within himself by meditation, but would also be able to see him personally with his eyes. This direct vision is possible only for those who highly elevated in the Krishna consciousness. For the Lord, it is not possible to see the material. For the Lord, it is not possible. How is that? This is direct vision is possibly only for those who are highly elevated in Krishna consciousness. For the Lord, is not possible to see the material eyes. Okay. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is multifarious eternal forms such as Krishna, Baldeva, Sankarshana, Aniruddha, Pradyumna, Vasudeva, Narayana, Rama, Narsimha, Varaha, Vamanam. And the devotee of the Lord knows all those Vishnu forms. The pure devotee becomes attached to one of the eternal forms of the Lord, and the Lord is pleased to appear before him in the form desired. The devotee does not imagine something whimsical about the form of the Lord, nor does he never think that the Lord is impersonal and can assume a form desired by the non-devotee. The non-devotee has no idea of the form of the Lord, thus he cannot think of any of the above mentioned forms. But whenever a devotee sees the Lord, he sees him in the most beautifully decorated form, accompanied with his constant companion and of the goddess of the fortune, which is internally beautiful. Text 51. The sage Maitreya said that hearing that her grandson would be a great devotee and her son would kill by Krishna, Diti was highly pleased in the mind. Diti was very aggrieved to learn that because of her ultimately pregnancy, her son would be demons and would fight with the Lord. But when she heard that her grandson would be a great devotee of the Lord and that her two sons will be killed by the Lord, she was very satisfied. As the wife of great sage and the daughter of the great Prajapati Daksha, she knows that being killed by the personality of Godhead is a great fortune. Since Lord is absolute, his acts of violence and non-violence are both on the absolute platform. There is no difference in such acts of the Lord. The mentioned violence and non-violence have nothing to do with the Lord's act. The demon killed by him attains the same result as one who attains the liberation after many births and ostracity. The Lord Brahma, some significant herein because he indicates that Diti was pleased beyond her expectation. Thus, the end of Bhagavatam Bhakti Vedanta purports of the third canto, the 14th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Pregnancy of Diti in the Evening. And chapter 15, I think Prabhu will
Yet we should just continue until he comes.
Yeah, I think it's 7, so.
No, he will come. We should keep it. Shall we do it? Yeah.
We should read.
Yeah.
Chapter 15, description of the knowledge of the God. Sri Maitreya said, My dear Vidruva, Diti, the wife of the sage Kashyapa, could not understand that the son within her womb will be cause disturbance to the demigod. As such, she continuously bore the powerful semen of the Kashyapa Muni, which was meant to give trouble to others for 100 years. The great sage Sri Maitreya was explaining to Vidura the activities of demigods, including the Lord Brahma. The Diti heard from her husband that son she bore within her abdomen will be cause the disturbance to the demigod, and she was not very happy. Therefore, there are two classes of men, devotees and non-devotees. Non-devotees are called demons and the devotees are called demigods. No sane man or woman can tolerate the non-devotee giving trouble to the devotee. Diti therefore was reluctant to give birth to her babies. She waited for 100 years so that at least she could save the demigods from the disturbance for that period. Oh my God, how is possible? Text 2 translation. By the force of pregnancy of Diti, the light of the sun and the moon was impaired in all the planets and demigods of various plants. Being disturbed by the force, asked the creator of the universe Brahma, what is the expansion of the darkness in all directions? It appears from the verse of Srimad Bhagavatam that sun is the source of light for all plants in the universe. The modern scientific theory which states that there are many suns in each universe, it is supported by the.
Do you want to continue?
No, Prabhu, please come.
Yes,
Yeah. The modern scientific theory which states that there are many suns in each universe is not. The modern scientific theory which states that there are many suns in each universe is not supported by these words. It is understood that each universe there is only one sun which supplies light to all the planets. In Bhagavad Gita, the moon is stated to be the one of the stars. There are many stars, and when we see them glittering at the night, we can understand that they are reflectors of the light. Just as the moonlight is a reflection of sunlight, and other planets reflect the sun. Other planets also reflect the sunlight. There are many other planets which cannot be seen by our eyes. The demonic influence of the suns in the womb of the Diti expanded that darkness throughout the universe. So from text 3, Prabhu will continue. Hare Krishna.
Text 3. So, translation. The fortunate demigod said, O great one, just see this darkness which you know very well and which is causing us anxieties. Because the influence of time cannot touch you, there is nothing unmanifested before you. Purport. Brahma is addressed here as Vibhu and as the personality of Godhead. He is the supreme personality of Godhead, incarnation of the mode of passion in the material world. He is none different in the representative sense from the supreme personality of Godhead, and therefore the influence of time cannot affect him. The influence of time, which manifests as past, present, and future, cannot touch higher personalities like Brahma and other demigods. Sometimes demigods and great sages who have attained such perfection are called Tirikalagiya. Text 4. Translation. O God of the demigods, sustainer of the universe, head jewel of all demigods in other planets, you know the intentions of all living entities in both the spiritual and material worlds. Purport. Because Brahma is almost on an equal footing with the personality of Godhead, he is addressed here as the God of the demigods. And because he is the secondary creator of this universe, he is addressed as the sustainer of the universe. He is the head of all the demigods, and therefore he is addressed here as the head jewel of the demigods. It is not difficult for him to understand everything which is happening in both the spiritual and the material worlds. He knows everyone's heart and everyone's intentions. Therefore he was requested to explain this incident. Why was the pregnancy of Diti causing such anxieties all over the universe? Text 5. O original source of strength and scientific knowledge, all obeisances unto you. You have accepted the differentiated mode of passion from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. With the help of external energy, you are born of the unmanifested source. All obeisances unto you. The Vedas are the original scientific knowledge for all departments of understanding. And this knowledge of the Vedas was first impregnated into the heart of Brahma by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore Brahma is the original source of all scientific knowledge. He is born directly from the transcendental body of Garbhodakshayi Vishnu, who is never seen by any creature of this material universe, and therefore always remains unmanifested. Brahma is stated here to be born of the unmanifested. He is the incarnation of the mode of passion in material nature, which is the separated external energy of the Supreme Lord. Big video. For who?
Facebook, and
Really?
it's live.
How much people are looking?
I don't know.
I will see now. I will see.
You can check now. Probably 1 or 2, maybe less than 5.
Maybe we can show the crowd. Okay, so text 6. O Lord, all these planets exist within yourself, and all the living entities are generated from you. Therefore you are the cause of this universe. And anyone who meditates upon you without deviation attains devotional service. Text 7. There is no defeat in this material world for persons who control the mind and senses by controlling the breathing process, and who are therefore experienced mature mystics. This is because by such perfection in yoga they have attained your mercy. Purport. The purpose of yogic performances is explained here. It is said that an experienced mystic attains full control of the senses and the mind by controlling the breathing process. Therefore, controlling the breathing process is not the ultimate aim of yoga. The real purpose of yogic performances is to control the mind and the senses. Anyone who has such, this is very interesting because a lot of people do yoga today, but their mind is everywhere. They don't really. Anyone who has such control is to be understood to be an experienced, mature, mystic yogi. It is indicated herein that a yogi who has control over the mind and senses has the actual benediction of the Lord, and he has no fear. In other words, one cannot attain the mercy and benediction of the Supreme Lord until one is able to control the mind and the senses. This is actually possible when one fully engages in Krishna consciousness. A person whose senses and mind are always engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord has no possibility of engaging in material activities. Devotees of the Lord are not defeated anywhere in the universe. It is stated, Narayana Para Sarve. One who is Narayana Para, or a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is not afraid anywhere, whether he is sent to hell or promoted to heaven. Text 8. All living entities within the universe are conducted by the Vedic directions, as a bull is directed by the rope attached to its nose. No one can violate the rules laid down in the Vedic literatures. To the chief person who has contributed the Vedas, we offer our respect. Purport. The Vedic literatures are the laws of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One cannot violate the injunctions given in the Vedic literatures, any more than one can violate the state of the laws. Any living creature who wants real benefit in this life must act according to the direction of the Vedic literature. The conditioned souls who have come to this material world for material sense gratification are regulated by the injunctions of the Vedic literature. Sense gratification is just like salt. One cannot take too much or too little, but one must take some salt in order to make one's foodstuff palatable. Those conditioned souls who have come to this material world should utilize their senses according to the direction of the Vedic literature. Otherwise, they will be put into a more miserable condition of life. No human being or demigod can enact laws like those of the Vedic literature, because the Vedic regulations are prescribed by the Supreme Lord. Text 9. So what did we read until now? Let's see if you were focused.
No, I was not. At least for this one.
Okay, let's start from the beginning. Text 3.
Yeah. No, I don't mind because I was not listening. I was watching that Facebook was watching.
How much people?
Nobody. Just me.
Okay. Text 9. The demigods pray to Brahma, "Please look upon us mercifully, for we have fallen into a miserable condition. Because of the darkness, all our work has been suspended." Purport. Because of complete darkness throughout the universe, the regular activities and engagements of all the different planets were suspended. In the north and south poles of this planet, there are sometimes no divisions of day and night. Similarly, when the sunlight does not approach the different planets within the universe, there is no distinction between day and night. Text 10. As fuel overloads a fire, so the embryo created by the semen of Kashyapa in the womb of Diti has caused complete darkness throughout the universe. Purport. The darkness throughout the universe is explained here as being caused by the embryo created in the womb of Diti by the semen of Kashyapa. Text 11. Srimad Bhagavatam said, "Those Lord Brahma, who is understood by transcendental vibration, try to satisfy the demigods, being pleased with their words of prayer." Purport. Brahma could understand the misdeeds of Diti, and therefore he smiled at the whole situation. He replied to the demigods present there in words they could understand. Text 12. Lord Brahma said, "My 4 sons, Sanaka, Sanatan, Sananda, and Sanat Kumar, who were born from my mind, are your predecessors. What is predecessors?
It's
Like a generation. Yeah? Sometimes they travel throughout the material and spiritual skies without any definite desire. Purport. When we speak of desire, we refer to desire for material sense gratification. Saintly persons like Sanatana, Sanandana, and Sanat Kumar have no material desires, but sometimes they travel all over the universe out of their own accord to preach devotional service. Text 13. After those traveling all over the universe, they also entered into the spiritual sky, for they were freed from all material contamination. In the spiritual sky, there are spiritual planets, known as Vaikunthas, which are the residents of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and His pure devotees, and are worshipped by the residents of all the material planets. Purport. The material world is full of cares and anxieties. In any one of the planets, beginning from the highest down to the lowest, Patala, every living creature must be full of cares and anxieties because in the material planets one can live must be full of cares and anxieties because in the material planets one cannot live eternally. The living entities, however, are actually eternal. They want an eternal home, an eternal residence. But because of accepting a temporal abode in the material world, they are naturally full of anxiety. In the spiritual sky, the planets are called Vaikuntha because the residents of these planets are free from all anxieties. For them, there is no question of birth, death, old age, and disease, and therefore they are not anxious. On the other hand, the residents of the material planets are always afraid of birth, death, disease, and old age, and therefore they are full of anxiety. Text 14. In the Vaikuntha planets, all the residents are similarly informed to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They all engage in devotional service to the Lord without desires for sense gratification. The residence and the form of the living in Vaikuntha are described in this verse. The residents are all like the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan. In the Vaikuntha planets, Krishna's planetary features as four-handed Narayan is the predominating deity, and the residents of Vaikuntha lokas are also four-handed, just contrary to our conception here in the material world. Nowhere in the material world do we find a human being with four hands. In Vaikuntha loka, there is no occupation but the service of the Lord. And this service is not rendered with a purpose. Although every service has a particular result, the devotees never aspire for the fulfillment of their desires. Their desires are fulfilled by rendering transcendental loving service to the Lord. So how do we get there, to the spiritual world? What do we need to do?
Chanting.
Yeah. True. Basically, yeah, like no desire for something else.
Yeah, no desire for something else. Not complaining about other people.
Nothing, yeah, just high standard, huh? Text 15. In Vaikuntha, do we want to go to Vaikuntha or we want to stay here? That's the question. Most of us want to just stay here.
What if your body becomes... Maybe not after your body becomes very...
It's a serious question. Everyone should ask himself, do we really want to go back to Vaikuntha? Or, of course,
till my...
no need to answer, everyone with himself. Like, we're afraid to go to Vaikuntha because attachments, material attachments. Anyway, we'll be okay. Okay, text 15. In the Vaikuntha planets is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. who is the original person and who can be understood through the Vedic literature. He is full of the uncontaminated mode of goodness, with no place for passion or ignorance. He contributes religious progress for the devotees. Purport. The kingdom of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the spiritual sky cannot be understood by any process other than hearing from the description of the Vedas. No one can go and see it. In this material world also, one who is unable to pay to go to a far distant place by motorized convenience can only understand about that place from authentic books. Similarly, the Vaikuntha planets in the spiritual sky are beyond this material sky. The modern scientists who are trying to travel in space are having difficulty going even to the nearest planet, the moon, to say nothing of the highest planets within this universe. There is no possibility then that they can go beyond the material sky, enter the spiritual sky, and see for themselves the spiritual planets. Vaikuntha. Therefore, the kingdom of God in the spiritual sky can be understood only through the authentic descriptions of the Vedas and Puranas. In the material world, there are three modes of material qualities: goodness, passion, and ignorance. But in the spiritual world, there is no trace of the mode of passion and ignorance. There is only the mode of goodness, which is uncontaminated by any tinge of ignorance or passion. In the material world, even if a person is completely in goodness, he is sometimes subject to be polluted by things of the modes of ignorance and passion. But in the Vaikuntha world, the spiritual sky, only the mode of goodness in its pure form exists. Basically, it means no mind. It means no mind, because all the modes are the mind. So there they have no mind. It's only
No, that's really good. I wish.
only the heart, only bhakti. The Lord and His devotees reside in the Vaikuntha planets, and they are of the same transcendental quality, namely Shuddha Sattva, the mode of pure goodness. The Vaikuntha planets are very dear to the Vaishnavas, and for the progressive march of the Vaishnavas toward the kingdom of God, the Lord Himself helps His devotees. I think it's what Prabhupada said one time, that we're practicing to go there. So whatever we do is just practicing to go to Vaikuntha or Goloka. So that's the practice. Not just living here and just wasting time. It's a practice. Okay, text 16. In those Vaikuntha planets, there are many forests which are very auspicious. In those forests, the trees are desire trees, kalpavriksha, and in all seasons they are filled with flowers and fruits, because everything in Vaikuntha planets is spiritual and personal. In the Vaikuntha planets, the land, the trees, the fruits and flowers, and the cows, everything is completely spiritual and personal. The trees and desire trees. On this material planet, the trees can produce fruits and flowers according to the order of material energy. But in the Vaikuntha planets, the trees, the land, the residents, and the animals are all spiritual. There is no difference between the tree and the animal, or the animal and the man. Here, the word murtimat indicates that everything has a spiritual form. Formlessness, as conceived by the impersonalist, is refuted in this verse. In the Vaikuntha planets, although everything is spiritual, everything has a particular form. The trees and the men have form. And because all of them, although different form, are spiritual, there is no difference between them. Text 17. In the Vaikuntha planets, the inhabitants fly in their airplane, accompanied by their wives and consorts, and eternally sing of the character and activities of the Lord, which are always devoid of all inauspicious qualities. While singing the glories of the Lord, they deride even the presence of the blossoming Madhavi flowers. While singing the glories of the Lord, they deride even the presence of the blooming Madhavi flowers, which are fragrant and laden with honey. What's this flower? It's here in material world? Madhavi flower? Somebody knows? Okay, but from India you don't know. Huh?
It is difficult to find here in this world.
It's not
in this world. No?
Yeah.
It doesn't grow.
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. It's very. The planets are full of all opulences. Their inhabitants travel in the sky with their sweethearts, flowers, and this breeze is so nice that it also carries the honey of the flowers. The inhabitants of Vaikuntha, however, are so interested in the Lord that they do not disturbance of such nice breeze while they are chanting the Lord's glories. In other words, they are pure devotees. They consider glorification of the Lord more important than their own sense gratification. In the Vaikuntha planets, there is no question of sense gratification. To smell the fragrance of a blossoming flower is certainly very nice, but it is simply for sense gratification. The inhabitants of Vaikuntha give first preference to the service of the Lord, not their own sense gratification. Serving the Lord is transcendental love. In transcendental love yields such transcendental pleasure that in comparison sense gratification is counted as insignificant. Text 8. So basically,
like this world is so many beautiful places. Flower. We can't imagine how beautiful it will be there.
yeah, you can't. Yeah, the thing is, here we have so many different desires. Therefore we hear, but there it's only Krishna, nothing else. And only when we want Krishna, then we can, no other desire. Only Krishna. 24 hours for eternity.
Like Prabhupada.
Everything is spiritual there.
Everything. The air, everything is like the flowers can talk, they talk. It's like Harry Potter. It's Harry Potter. It comes from Hare Krishna. No, really. Or like the inhabitant, like all the walls, they talk. You know, you saw the movie, like the walls talk, and exactly the same. Okay, text 18. When the king of bees hums in a high pitch, singing the glories of the Lord, there is a temporary lull in the noise of the pigeon, the cuckoo, the crane, the chakravaka, the swan, the parrot, the partridge, and the peacock. Such transcendental birds stop their own singing simply to hear the glories of the Lord. Purport. This verse reveals the absolute nature of Vaikuntha. There is no difference between the birds there and the human residents. The situation in the spiritual sky is that everything is spiritual and variegated. Spiritual means that everything is animate. There is nothing inanimate. Even the trees, the ground, the plants, the flowers, the birds, and the beasts are all on the level of Krishna consciousness. The special feature of Vaikuntha Loka is that there is no question of sense gratification. In the material world, even an ass enjoys his sound vibration. That is funny. It's true. Even an ass enjoys his sound vibration. But in the Vaikunthas, such nice birds and peacock, the Chakravaka and the cuckoo, prefer to hear the vibration of the glories of the Lord from the bees. The principles of devotional service, beginning with hearing and chanting, are very prominent in the Vaikuntha world.
It's even funny.
गला ढेंचू ढेंचू नहीं करता.
So it's 7:30. Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam.
Ki Jai.